Well, excited to be back game week. Big top 20 game here. Excited to be back home. From our road swing. Guys are beat up, but they're excited and ready to go for Saturday night in front of what should be a sold-out crowd.
Anything from the Duke game stand out on rewatch that you didn't maybe see in the moment?
Pretty much what we saw. Played pretty good football, minus 6 turnovers and a goal line stand, which makes it really bad football. So, defensively, played pretty solid. We had that drive in the third quarter and the fourth quarter. I think we'd like back. They did a nice job and went back-to-back touchdown drives on us. But, to give up 6 turnovers the way we did, and I think at least 4 of them were on our side of the field, and then to get 0 points is just incredible. And then, offensively, it's really frustrating because, look, you can't win turning the ball over. We've never had a game like that, so I've never had a game like that. It was just kind of like a Twilight Zone scenario, but you take the turnovers out, we didn't play bad. But when you have the turnovers, it waters everything down and makes it as yucky as it was, and it's bad football. And doesn't matter how good you are or how good you play, you have anywhere from 3 to 6 turnovers, it's going to be hard to win. And so, you look at the data and the game plan, the guys followed it minus the turnovers. We won the running game, we won the explosives, we lost the turnovers in a bad way, and that gave them a chance to win the game. Credit them, but to limit their defense to no sacks, only 2 tackles for loss, to go 50% on third down, run for over 200 yards, you'd look at that and go, man, you guys probably played pretty well, but turning the ball over, especially inside the 5, will do it to you.
What does it mean to be going into November in a new league and for this team to be basically in a first-place game right now?
Yeah, it's special. I credit our guys and our staff of doing what's really hard and just kind of taking it 1 week at a time and worrying about chasing our standard, and respecting every opponent and respecting how hard it is to win, but not making it about the opponent and making it about trying to do the things you have to do week in, week out to win. And we came into the season saying, man, we knew we had a team we felt like could compete, and that was our goal. Let's just go out and prove we belong, prove we can compete, and then we're going to learn a lot about ourselves and how we measure up and where we stand. And our guys have taken that mindset week to week and, not gotten too high after a win and not tanked it after our one loss that was a tough one. And they've responded each week. And, last week, obviously, there was a lot of things we did to make that really tough on ourselves and even put ourselves in a position where we probably shouldn't have won the game, but they had the grit to pull it out. But to be 7-1 going into November, 4-0 in the league, and a 4-way tie for first and competing for something, it's obviously where we wanted to be, and I think it's really cool, and credit to our players for putting us in that position.
Now, that last home game obviously was a Florida State game. There was so much build up to that from the summer on, and clearly they didn't run the season they expected, and maybe it took a little bit off the game, but you guys took care of business. How's your team kind of learned for a big game like this? We all know there's a lot of hype on this game, and there's a lot on this game. How have they learned and prepared for this?
Yeah, when you're winning, every game's the next big game. If we're able to win Saturday, then in 2 weeks from now, it'll be the next big game. And so that's the exciting part. And we got to feel that a little bit last year when we went on the run late to win the conference. Each game you would win, it didn't matter if it was Memphis, a big game, or if it was North Texas. Like, it was still a big game because it was the next one and you had to win it. It's a good question. I thought the way they responded against TCU, and then to follow it up against Florida State, and then to go on the road at Louisville, like, they've shown that they can just show up and play and not let all that kind of get the most of them. Now, I thought last week was the first week. In some areas we were flat at times, and credit our opponent. They did an excellent job. But I think our guys will be ready to play. Do we play well? We don't know. Will we win? We don't know. But I think we'll be ready to play, and we'll be up for the challenge.
How's Kevin responded just after everything?
Yeah, he's responded pretty well. This is the first big kind of piece of adversity in his short starting career, because obviously there's in his first 4 or 5 games this year, he's actually been explosive and protected the ball pretty well. And to do such a poor job of that for 4 quarters the other night, I would think he would tell you is alarming and concerning. At the same time, it's also, if you look at the body of work, he has a chance to prove that's the exception, not the rule. Because if you're looking at his data this year, he hadn't had more than a turnover in a game until Saturday night. So I think he's taken it personal in a good way. I think his teammates picked him up on Saturday night. His teammates picked him up this week, and I'm excited for him to go out and play, and he's not going to be perfect. He'll turn it over again at some point. The one really bad interception throwing back across your body can't happen, and then just the ball security with the ball can't happen. So,
what do you see from Pitt's defense? And I know they like to blitz a lot. How you kind of prepare for that?
Yeah, Pat. Go way back with Pat. I've known him a long time. A ton of respect for him. He's as good a defensive coach as we've had over a couple decades now in our game. Got to go against him twice when I was at Miami, and their defenses are known for being really, really stingy against the run. Like, they don't let you run the football. They smother. It's everybody's down within 7 to 10 yards of the football. They're daring you to win one-on-ones on the outside, and most people don't. And so they can smother you with their base D, and then half the time they're blitzing. And they're not on base downs exotic, but they blitz really well. They hit their gaps hard. Their D-line rushes hard, and they create negative plays, which get them to their really good third down package. So in some ways it's similar to what we played last week. They want the similar mindset. They want the havoc. They want the turnovers, the negative plays, and they kind of take the air out of the coverage so they don't give you a lot of easy completions. But they stop the run better than what we saw last week. And so we're going to have to be really good. We're going to have to be really balanced and obviously take care of football.
Doing a feature on Jonathan McGill. Just
Yeah.
curious, when he first transferred in here a couple of years ago, what were your first impressions of?
Yeah, getting Jonathan back 2 years ago was a big deal for us. I mean, I knew him when I was here as offensive coordinator. That we recruited him when he was at Coppell, and we're really disappointed when he chose to go to Stanford, but understood it. And so, after my first year here, we kind of sat around and felt like, okay, SMU, if you looked over the last decade, had played good offensive football, but we hadn't played great defensive football. And so we were going to go out in the portal and try to fix some of those things. But what we really needed just as much as good players was leadership. And having a guy like Jonathan McGill, who was a starter at Stanford, a captain, a graduate of Stanford, coming back home to kind of lead the back end in particular of our defense, that's what he brought to the table. That's what we thought he would, and that's what he has brought to the table. And so I think in year one, he did a nice job of just stabilizing some leadership on defense, creating a culture on defense with some of the other guys too. But and then he's gone out and made plays. But I think his leadership's been his number one asset for us.
How much has he helped having that Power 5, Power 4 conference experience just this year in terms of, like you said, the leadership, preparation, the day-to-day stuff that you have to do to be successful?
Yeah, it's helped. It's helped a lot of our guys because we do have a lot of guys with that background. And so, to have played, he was playing more in a Pac-12 conference, but to have played that level of ball week in, week out, guys like him and Elijah Roberts and some of those guys can give our high school guys or our transfers like Kobe and Ahmad, who came from a group of 5 school, understand what to expect. So I think it's been valuable.
To go back to Kevin, how important is it for a quarterback, especially one that doesn't have a ton of starts under their belt, to experience adversity and to learn how to grow through it and get past it?
It's part of the process. In this world of transfer quarterbacks, I said this a little bit last year, we had a chance with Shane Buechele and Tanner Mordecai to get guys who had already gone through those growing pains at Texas and Oklahoma. And so when they came to SMU, it doesn't mean they were perfect, but they had gone through a game where they threw a couple picks or gone through a game they lost or didn't play well, and just the development of playing quarterback that you can only do until you go do it. Same thing we said last year with Preston. I mean, I think you saw early in the year, first 4 or 5 games, it was kind of up and down, and then he really hit his stride later in the year. Kevin's been a little different. He's played really well, and it was getting better and better each week. And then he, hit a speed bump, and that's part of the game. I mean, you look in the NFL, all the best ones have had games where they played bad or they lost or whatnot. We're fortunate to, come out with a win in that scenario. But, like I said, we're talking about it a lot because 6 is a lot and 5 by one guy, But, like I said, I think he's got a chance to prove that his short sample size tells you that's a anomaly. So he's got a chance to prove that.
How much does having Coach King and his perspective help with that? And how have you, if you've been able to see his growth and his interactions with Kevin as the quarterbacks?
I think it's really good because, first of all, like I said, De'Eric's just very relatable. Kevin grew up watching De'Eric play in college. They're not that far apart. So there's a relatability he has too with Kevin, and they're both similar in their mindsets. Like, they're very even keel, calm guys, very confident, but you never see them like get too up here when things are good, and you never see them get too down in the dumps. They just kind of keep playing, and I think that's Kevin's natural reaction. I think it's De'Eric's natural default as well, and so I think that helps. And he can say, "Hey, man, I had a game one time where I did this, this, and this." And, you got to have a short memory as a quarterback in this game, whether you lose a game or whether you throw some picks or whatnot. You got to have a short memory. He's got a chance to prove that this week against a defense who probably licking their chops after 3 pick sixes for touchdowns a week ago.
But, you look at, obviously Kevin didn't start the year as QB1, and you look at over the weekend, Tulsa and Texas A&M both made in-game changes for quarterbacks who led them to wins. As a coach, how difficult or how hard is that decision to make a change in the middle of the season, in the middle of a game, especially at a position like quarterback?
It's hard, and I think that's why sometimes you'll have maybe fans calling for this or that, and you coaches will take more time because once you make a switch like that, there's usually not any going back. But also, I think in some of those instances, I can't speak to their situation, but in ours, it wasn't like we were trying to find our quarterback and didn't know who could play. We had an experienced returning starter who had played really well and was 11-3 as a starter. And so when you make a switch like that, it's a permanent switch. It's not a, hey, let's try it out for a game. It's a switch for not only this year, it's a switch for your future. And so you got to be sure. It's tough. It's tough because, one, if it doesn't work, the questions are going to be a lot different. But also, you just know it's affecting your team as a whole, and it's affecting those individuals. And at least here in our program, we care about the individuals. And so, like I've said a bunch of times, to hurt a guy like Preston, who we love to death, is hard to do when you do it, when you think what's best for the team. He's handled it great. Again, you always are taking into account the team, what the team needs, how they're going to respond, how they're going to react. That was at least the basis for our decision. But it's tough. It's not something you do a lot, but when you have to do it, that's the job, make the hard decisions.
With the transfer portal, the way guys can move now, how much do you have to take that into consideration that that the guy, if he's gotten displaced, and I'm not talking about Preston in general, but just you have to think about that as if we do this guy probably is going to have.
You have to think about everything with the transfer portal. It's nothing against the kids. It's the way it is, and it doesn't allow sometimes the development that guys need to battle adversity, to battle disappointment, to maybe even have to handle something they disagree with. Some kids do it well, and a lot don't, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're bad kids. We've given them the option to take the path of least resistance. Now, you do have to, in a situation like that, especially at quarterback, understand, like, if you got good quarterbacks, if they're not playing within a year or two, they're going to leave. They're just going to leave. And it is what it is. It's the climate we're in. And so I think, most coaches probably are by now over getting upset about it and just understand that's the lay of the land. And, but I also think there's a track record here of guys that were patient. Preston was patient behind Tanner, and he did get his shot. Kevin was patient. He has got his shot. You look at a guy like Keldrick Luster, who we think could be really, really good. I hope he'll hang in there and be patient because we think he's got a bright future. But everyone's different.
With running the ball 50 times, did you obviously have any kind of notion that you were getting up to that number? And then how's Brashard doing kind of after that? And then with Justin Osborne, being a factor on that offense?
Yeah, I didn't know the numbers in game, so after the game, I didn't know we ran it 50 times and he carried it 26 times. Now, Coach Cooper probably did. I think he had 26, LJ had 8, and then Kevin had double digits. We knew going into the game plan was they're one of the best teams in the country against the pass and creating negative plays, which gets them to their third down defense, which they were great at, and all the things, and creating tackles for loss. But their weakness was stopping the run. And so we felt like we needed to consistently run the ball right at them. You look at our first drive, we were patient down the field, fumbled the ball. Then a drive or two later when we scored, other than the big play to Keyshawn, and then we did get the big plays to Roderick. That was the plan, and the plan worked if we don't turn the ball over. Credit them, they tackled the ball, they went after it. They knew that for them to win, they had to create turnovers. We knew for us to win, we had to not turn it over. They executed that part a whole lot better than we did, and we were fortunate to come out with it. But yeah, that was a concerted effort. Each week you play somebody different. It was a concerted effort we're going to run the football on these guys to open up the opportunities in the passing game. But that's what Duke does well. Rush the passer and not let you. I think they were giving up 100, maybe 150, less than 150 yards passing. That's crazy, so.
And how do you balance that, knowing the run game has been a strength of your team this year, with knowing it's a strength of Pitt's defense.
Yeah.
You know, and just saying, hey, it's best on best. Here we go.
Yeah. Well, we weren't running the ball because we don't believe we can throw it.
Sure.
We were running the ball because we felt like that was the plan that gave us the best chance to win that game. You know, against Pitt, you can look at it and go, well, nobody runs it. Well, a lot of people don't consistently try to run it on them, but they are. I mean, the way they play, it's hard to be explosive running the football in Pitt, and so you've got to grind it out. But at the same time, if you just say, well, man, look at all these opportunities in the passing game. I mean, they smother the quick, short passes, and they make the deep, explosive passes really tough. And so, you know, teams like Syracuse, who all they want to do is throw it, we saw how that looked. And then teams that only run it, though, struggle. So I think, look, to beat any good defense like Pitt, you got to have the balance. And that's what we're going to have to do on Saturday is balance, which has really been kind of our MO this year. We've ran it a little more than we have in the past, but we still throw the football, and that balance has helped us be more efficient.
No availability still pending on Eli Holstein, but what do you see out of him on tape and the Pitt offense and potentially perfect for 2 quarters?
Yeah, I mean, we're preparing like he's going to play. I know he got dinged up last Thursday night, but with them playing on Thursday, they get an extra couple days. But if not, you know, their backup's a good player. We went against him at Miami, so both very capable guys, kind of like us. But he's injected confidence into that offense, him and their new scheme, and playing with tempo and the vertical passing game. I think the running back's a really good player. They use him in a lot of ways like we use Burchard, and so those guys are problems. And so I think they have good balance. They play with good tempo. They're vertical in their passing game. They're different than us, but they like to do the same things we like to do to defenses, and it puts a lot of stress on you. But Eli's been at the center of all that. Just the confidence, you can just see it when I've gotten to watch him on TV at times, and then when you watch film, the confidence he's infused into that unit is very noticeable. So I know just like our guy's availability is up in the air. I mean, we got a bunch of guys beat up, and most of them practiced today, not all of them, but you know, even Kevin, not 100% sure he's cleared yet. So, but just like them, they got a capable guy. We have a capable guy in Preston, so I think we'll be good either way.
Just out of curiosity, do you pay attention to the forecast when it's Tuesday? Do you have plays you're like, man, if it does become a downpour, we're going to scrap them? Like, how often do you get into that?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that it's predicted to rain starting tomorrow through the weekend off and on a lot. And now in Dallas, I know that if that's the case, it's probably either going to snow or be 100. But, you know, you still prepare to go beat who you're going to play. And you understand that both teams are going to play in the same elements. So if it is a downpour, then we may struggle throwing the ball, but guess what? So will they. You know what I mean? And so, and if it's cleared, then both teams should be able to do their normal stuff. So we don't stress about it too much. We put in the plan, and at least that's how we do it. We put in the plan we need in place. We practiced in the rain enough at times throughout the fall and all that, and played enough games in the past that our guys will be okay. If you get to the game and it's the conditions, whether it's super windy, a little bit of rain, a heavy rain, lightning delay, all that stuff, then you adjust in game. But and yeah, there's probably some plays depending on the elements. You might say, I'm gonna hold that one. Or sometimes, hey, the rain's supposed to let up in the second half, maybe I'll wait, that kind of deal. But on a Tuesday, other than just being aware that it could be a weather game, I don't overthink it. And like I said, around here, if you don't like the weather in Dallas, just wait 10 minutes.
Does rain even affect? There's like, I know there's other coaches that cover that. Mostly the wind. If there's a heavy or strong wind, that's more.
I think it depends. You know, fortunately, Kevin has a big hand. Big hand quarterbacks throw the ball well in the rain. Small hand quarterbacks don't. But everyone's different. But yeah, I think wind in general affects the kicking game and throwing the football more than rain sometimes. Now, look, if it's just a torrential downpour, then it's going to affect anybody. The balls get heavy. You got to change the ball all the time. Grip, catching it, all that stuff. Or sometimes what's really irritating is just like a little bit of rain. So it's not really raining, but it's not, that in between is sometimes because half the ball's dry and half of it's wet. That's what's great about our game. For the most part, unless it's lightning, we play no matter what. So.
What has surprised you, or what have you learned about the ACC, and maybe what surprised you as you played the games you played and you scouted and you've looked at other teams that you're scouting?
I had the benefit of being in the league,
right.
And so I knew that it was a good league. I knew that it was a league known for pass rushers on the defensive side and quarterbacks and playmakers on the offensive side. And at least in my experience in the league, you know, Clemson had kind of been running it well, but everyone else there was a little bit of parity. But I think right now, there's even more parity than 3 or 4 years ago when I was in the league. I mean, yes, Miami's having a great year, and yes, Clemson's acting like Clemson, but I mean, there's a bunch of teams contention to go to a bowl, and there's still 6 or 7 teams that are not out of the hunt for the conference with 1 month to play. So I think I'm not shocked by a lot, but I do think the parity and the balance of our league has really improved. And if you look at how our league's done out of conference, I think it shows that our league is in a good place.
So you felt good about SMU translating to the league. Did it take your players and other people around to see it happen? Maybe.
I don't know. You'd have to ask them. Maybe. I like to just in general walk around with confidence, and I think our staff and our program, we like to be that way, and not fake confidence. Just we believe in who we are and what we're doing. Knowing the league, I did believe we could compete. I didn't know to what level, and we still got a month left to prove it. You know, are we going to be able to hang in there week to week with the physicality and everything that's starting to take a toll on us? But we felt like we had a team that could compete, and it helped me knowing the league to feel that way. But I think our guys believed it either way, but you could ask them.
With Elijah, you mentioned pass rushers in this league, leading the country in pressures. What have you seen from him over the last stretch? I mean, just his game translating back into this league.
He's been everything I thought he would be. You know, after last year, he kind of broke through, and you know, I think there was some motivation for him to prove he could do it in this league on this level, and we felt confident he could. I know his sack numbers aren't as high, but you're leading the country in pressures, you're doing something right, you know, and teams are focusing on him more, which is opening up some other guys. But you know, I think he's been the same factor we needed him to be, because pressures usually lead to picks, tip balls, bad throws, or getting someone else there. So I think he's been really good, and I think he's handled maybe his lack of sack numbers really maturely. Like, he hadn't pressed or tried to be somebody different or he's still about the team, he's still about doing his job. So I think it's cool to see now that the numbers show that he's leading the country in pressures, because what he's doing is working, and it's going to translate to the next level too.
Any injury updates that you want to share?
We should have Jonathan Jefferson back. He was out last week. I think either today or tomorrow is when he'd be officially cleared, but we're optimistic there. I'd say Jake Bailey is day-to-day, doubtful to questionable. Hasn't been ruled out. I'd say Kevin is questionable. He took a real shot on their sideline. We got Stone Eby's questionable. Justin Osborne would be questionable. Brandon Miyazono is probably out for a few weeks with the elbow, but we're optimistic it doesn't need surgery. I'm trying to think who might have gotten beat up in the game and left, but most of the rest of the guys are just, it was week in, week out physicality, right? So, you know, we got a short turnaround compared to them, so we're just gonna have to do a good job of getting ourselves fresh as we can Saturday night and being ready to play, and I think we will be.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Awesome.